What's the weirdest thing you've seen happen at a friend's house that they thought was normal? Story 1. When I was in about first grade, my best friend at the time had a lot of temper tantrums. We were having a sleepover, and I fell asleep in her bedroom. In the middle of the night, I woke up in a different bed with her father. I was so confused, but he explained that she had a temper tantrum, and her mom went to sleep in her bed with her, so they moved me to the guest room. I was young and didn't understand that's not normal, that he was sleeping in the same bed as me, just him and me. I told my parents when I went home the next day, and they were extremely concerned, asking me if he touched me, etc. I was highly confused because my pure innocent mind didn't understand the concept of that, LOL. Now as an adult, I'm like, why didn't they just move me to the other room? Why did the dad have to get in bed with me? LOL. They're truly good people and nothing happened, but it's weird. Story 2. More of a date story. Was on a date with a guy who was cooking dinner for me, and his dog took a giant horse piss in the living room. I jumped up, a bit panicked, trying to get the guy's attention to what just happened. The guy didn't even look up when he said, "Oh yeah, she does that sometimes," and that was it. I asked him if there was a towel and disinfectant I could use to help clean it up, and the guy says, "I'll just throw some Febreze on it after dinner." I suddenly realized the musty smell I noticed earlier wasn't from his cool and rustic cabin being under a canopy of trees, or that the floor in the same location that bowed when you stepped over it was because it was old. Ate dinner at a table that was a couple feet away from the dog toilet. Left. Gross. Story 3. Went with a few friends to one of their family's houses for a birthday party when I was like 15 or 16. We smoked weed, swam, and had a great old time. After eating, we settled in to watch a horror movie, and at some point I looked around me, and everyone in that family was sitting in the same crisscross applesauce position and slowly rocking back and forth while watching TV. Definitely not the weirdest thing on this thread by far, but something about it was extremely creepy. They were nice as crap though. Story 4. 15 years ago. Visit a friend house who live in San Francisco around 3rd Street, bad neighborhood area. Upon entering, pass by the kitchen, 4 gas stove flame was in full blast, not cooking anything. No vent. You can literally see a big burn hole in the ceiling all the way through the 2nd floor room. His mom was upstairs, one of those rooms far away from the bottom floor kitchen, watching TV in full blast. Long story short, they're basically using their gas stove as a centralized heater for the whole house. I am a certified fire safety director at my work. This almost gives me a heart attack. Story 5. Went to a sleepover at this girl's house, and her mom was obsessively taking pictures of us all night. At one point we were watching a movie and my friend passed out, and her mom, I crap you not, pulls out a huge newscast type heavy-duty camera and starts recording her daughter sleeping for a solid 5 minutes. I have trouble sleeping, and so that night when us kids were in the bedroom to sleep, I was on the floor just staring at the wall in the dark. I was facing away from the door, laying on my side. I hear the door creak. Some footsteps, and then the darkness of the room lit with a sudden flash. I got up just in time to see the door close. I know it was her mom taking pics of us. The weirdest part to me is that it was about 3 a.m. when that happened, meaning the girl's mom either had an alarm or just stayed up that late and wait. Story 6. My family were very comfortable, and my mom always babysat lots of kids from around the neighborhood. Basically, her place was just where the kids hung out. Once there was an emergency with my dad, and my mom really needed somebody to watch me overnight, and I wound up with one of the families that she babysat for. They were really nice people, and I was close friends with their kids, obviously, because they were at my house every day. It was a new experience, though. This was the first time I'd ever seen people living in real poverty. I was kind about it, and I didn't say anything, but parts of it were a real shock to me. The toilet didn't work, but they had just continued to use it to the point that it was piled up to the seat. We had to unscrew the light bulb to turn off the lights because the switch would shock you if you touched it. I felt really bad for them. It was just a real eye-opener for me as a kid, and it gave me a much better understanding of exactly why my mom babysat and fed all those kids. Story 7. I babysat for a family on occasion, and the kids would always ask for a cool cup, and I had no clue what it was. They asked for them constantly, but were too little to really describe them enough for me to understand. I mentioned it to the mom in passing one day, and she started laughing and cut the tops off of some bell peppers and took out the seeds and then filled the peppers with tap water. The kids went nuts over them like they were treats. It was really weird to me that drinking water out of bell peppers was a thing to beg for on the regular. Story 8. Stayed at a friend's house when I was probably 10 or 11, and we had a sleepover one night, and we were up really late playing games and just talking. Around a.m., his dad comes in, frantic, saying that he heard someone breaking in upstairs, and that we needed to leave immediately. Anyways, we walk out of the house, and he tells the neighbor that they need to leave too. The neighbor looked extremely worried and pulled her phone out. We drive to a place and he gets us some food, and eventually an ambulance comes, and so does the neighbor along with it, because apparently the father was schizophrenic and having an episode. There was really no break-in. Obviously my friend now knows this, but back then, we genuinely believed him. Story 9. Growing up in rural East England, had a friend who lived on a working farm. They had the stereotypical big English farmhouse. Lovely old place. No flat floors or straight walls anywhere. Anyway, downstairs was an interesting layout. They had a room that was almost hidden away that you could easily miss unless you knew it was there or noticed it from outside. So this room, I only ever went in once, maybe twice in many years of being friends and going over their house quite a lot. It was their Christmas room. It has decorations up all year round. And during the year when they bought presents, they'd wrap them and just put in the room and leave them there until Christmas. It was awesome in a sense though. A whole room for this is great. Often when it came to Christmas time, they'd forgotten what something was that they got for another family member. Story 10. When I was younger, I was best friends with two brothers from Jamaica. One of the days they asked me to stay over so we could play some Atari after we finished playing outside. We came home 12 minutes after their curfew, so their dad, who was extremely calm, told us to sit in the living room. I sat in there with my two friends, and they were super quiet, which was a bit weird until their dad walked in with a belt and beat the living crap out of them. I crapped myself not literally, because I thought I was in for a beating, but he didn't hit me, which was a huge relief. After the beating, their dad asked if I would like some carrot juice while my friends just went back to normal and set up their Atari like nothing happened. I was sat on the sofa wondering what the crap just went on. Story 11. I'll be the weird family. My dad is a doctor, and one day my friend came over who had a totally blackened toenail from getting stepped on by a baseball cleat. No problem, my dad says. Just some blood underneath the toenail. We can relieve the pain by puncturing a hole in the toenail and letting the blood flow out. Well, he proceeds to get out a Dremel tiny drill, sterilize a new drill bit, and drills a small hole in my friend's toenail. Blood shoots out of the hole into the air. My friend and I were screaming and laughing the entire time. It worked. He was instantly relieved of his pain. My friend asked if this was a normal occurrence in the house. I told him that my dad has always been the go-to for caring for friends, neighbors, etc. But this did indeed take the cake for being the best procedure he's done in the house. Story 12. One of the first times I met my husband's family, I was over at their house, and husband gestured for me to sit down and be comfortable. Their house was really very cluttered. Not quite hoarder cluttered, but close. They had a couple of couches facing each other and then some other chairs. Not knowing the rules, I sat on one of the couches, which had a lot of stuffed teddy bears on it. OMG. You would think I had sat down on live bears. There were probably 20 to 30 small medium stuffed bears on this couch. Husband's mother and twin brother both visibly reacted as if I had damaged the bears. Not antique bears either. That was when I was told that the couch was for the bears, and only for the bears, and that no one was allowed to sit on the bears' couch. Just the bears. The bears all had little beaded necklaces with their names on them to tell them apart because they were all the same brand and style. Story 13. When I was 7, I went over to play with a new friend, and she asked if I wanted a snack. I said sure, and we went into their playroom where there was a mini fridge just stacked with candy, full bars of everything, and she casually tossed me a pack of Rolos. Now the house was a manufactured home, not a trailer purse, but definitely not like the usual house either. I know this doesn't indicate how much money the family had, but this was not in an upscale neighborhood or house. I marveled at A, the largest amount of candy I have still to this day ever seen, and B, the fact that she and her siblings all just had free access to it at such young ages. She was surprised at my surprise, and asked what did I keep in my snack fridge. I told her I didn't have one of those. And then it was her turn to be absolutely gobsmacked at the idea that I didn't have a mini fridge full of candy just at my disposal and whim. Story 14. Not at my friend's house, but we were 15-year-olds and went for a walk to her mum's friend's house to get her some smokes. We walked into the house and the 2-year-old was covering themselves in margarine. The floor was covered in roaches, animal poop, used nappies, diapers, and rubbish. There was peanut butter on the walls and kitchen table. It was so incredibly sad to see dirty and disheveled kids living in that. The weirdest part was seeing the toddlers smearing margarine in their hair, and no one caring. The rest was disgusting, but I'd seen that kind of living before. Never the complete indifference towards a baby, though. Awful. Story 15. Was sleeping over at a friend's house in 6th grade, 3 p.m. We show up to her house after school. We walked into her apartment to find her mom half-dressed, passed out drunk, and sprawled out with her head on the floor, one arm twisted weirdly so it somehow was resting on the coffee table, and her legs on the couch. TV was on and blaring. Didn't even notice our arrival. I had zero experience with this kind of thing, and although I could tell my friend was embarrassed, I didn't understand the full implications, or really what was happening. I pretty much just thought it was an odd place for a nap, which is how I explained it to my parents later when I commented on how odd it was to be napping there instead of in bed. I might have even asked them if they would let me sleep on the couch and watch TV too. Bless my parents for immediately understanding the situation but not making a scene and not spoiling my naivete or ever embarrassing my friend in any way. My family is pretty good at being subtle, for better or worse. However, that was absolutely the last time I stayed at her house. All sleepovers with that particular friend were at my house from then on. But it was a casual coincidence from my POV. I didn't even notice that subtle change for a couple years. Looking back, I think my friend really appreciated it though. We're still friends and she has kids of her own and she's doing great as a doctor, but her mom still has the same alcohol struggles and is very in your face about it even now as she was then. Story 16. Went to friend's house as a kid, sitting at the dining table for lunch. House phone rings. Everyone falls to the floor around me, including the mom and dad. I'm the only one left sitting there. The dad informs me that I now must answer the phone. Hello, Johnson's house. I hold the phone out to the dad. It's for you. Everyone laughs. I am so uncomfortable. The next time that phone rang, I was the fastest to the floor, I can tell you that. Such a fun, loving family. Loved going around there. Story 17th. Went to this girl's house in primary school. I'm ashamed to say it was because I felt bad that she was getting bullied at school, and in hindsight she had a learning disability. She was nice though, just sometimes said really uncomfortable things for an 11-year-old. Anyway, she had a 3-year-old brother, and I saw her mum reading a book titled How to Be a Good Mum, or something similar. She started screaming at this toddler for not vacuuming his room and referencing the book. I was like, ma'am, you expect this infant to vacuum his room? To be fair, he did end up doing it, but mind blown. Their family had a really weird dynamic. Story 18. In high school, I would stay at my friend's house a lot and play video games and sleep over. My friend's mom would encourage his little sister and her friends to put on skimpy outfits and try to seduce me and his other friends, take their tops off in the hot tub and things like that. His mom would stand at her bedroom window and watch her daughter try to bang all his friends. I didn't get it at the time, but I secretly think his mom was the one who wanted to bang all of us, so she told her daughter too. Instead, his mom would also drink a bottle of wine and touch us inappropriately, touch our stomachs or slap our butts, and say things like, "Oh, have you been working out?" And my friend would just say like, "Cut it out, mom, you're embarrassing me." The whole family was weirdly sexual, and I learned later they had some dark secrets. Story. His mom walking around topless barking a chore list while we just sat around the coffee table working on homework. She was a single mom working multiple jobs. They were latchkey kids. They didn't even bat an eyelash. But the minute she saw a new face sitting on the rug boring a hole into the distant wall, she shifted on a dime, ducked into the mudroom, threw on her bra and work shirt, and brought out a carton of Oreos from a secret stash, and was pretty much shocked into silence. I think she was terrified I'd misappropriate it to my parents, but all we cared about was cookies. Story 20. I was maybe 12, and visiting a friend who lived deep in the woods for the first time. They had 2 outdoor dogs, and one got free and ran over and attacked the other. The dog that got bit was quite a bit smaller and was definitely injured. My friend's dad came out with a pistol and shot both dogs. It changed my life forever. I was raised in a house where dogs are family. My friend and his family didn't seem fazed at all. Edit, this really took off, so I guess I can elaborate a little more. This happened around 1994. I grew up in an extremely rural town, so when I say my friend lived deep in the woods, I'm talking like they were completely off the grid backwoods. One of the dogs was my friend's, and the other was his sister's. They were chained up outside 24/7 and just not treated as pets at all. I believe the logic behind the shooting was that the sister's dog was too injured to recover, and my friend's dog had killed his sister's dog, so it was only fair to shoot them both. About minutes after the whole thing happened, we all ate dinner together like nothing happened. My parents picked me up shortly after, and I cried the entire way home. We only hung out at my house after that.